Hello again. My name is Jeff T. Henn. I'm a quality engineer for the Red Hat CloudForms product. Today I'll be giving a reasonably short demonstration of the new CloudForms feature that allows you to provision an Azure VM instance using a custom VM image located on Azure. For today, the topics will be how to provision the instance. I'll show you how to quickly create an image. I'll show you where to find the image on Azure, walk you through the provisioning process, monitoring the request, and then I'll just show you that the VM is actually being created on Azure. So I hope you find this useful, and I thank you very much for your time.
Well, the first thing we need to do is Sysprep and generalize the image. For Linux machines, you have to deprovisioning using WA Linux. What we want to do is select the VM. This is going to go real fast, so at the end there's a page that will tell you how to find the videos that explains this in greater detail. But for now, what we want to do is just connect to it. We're going to go to Sysprep. For Sysprep, we just want to do the out-of-box experience, and then we need to shut this down. We can't generalize the disk until we shut it down. And you can't generalize the disk from within the Azure GUI either. You have to use PowerShell for that. Okay, so the only three things we really need to do here is log in, make absolutely sure that the VM is stopped, and then we're going to set that VM so that it's generalized. So it's always the same commands, -generalize is what we want. Now, back in CloudForms, what we're going to do is we're going to go find our provider. And we'll click on it. It's my default Azure account. And what you'll get is the details, or the summary, excuse me. We're going to click on images. And what I want you to notice on this next page here is the name of the image, because it also contains the location for the image. So real quickly, let's go back to Azure, and I'll show you how to actually find out where this image is at. All VHDs are stored in the storage account. I have a generic test one here. Storage accounts contain blobs. You can create as many blobs as you want. I have a special templates folder of my own. I have a folder where I put test VMs, etc. For the generalized images, they go in this system folder, and now you'll see the rest of that path we saw back in CloudForms. So Microsoft Compute, images, templates, and then here you go. You have the disk itself, and then you have the VM details there. So now that you know where to find it, let's go ahead and create one. I'm going to click on Instances by Provider, and then I'm going to provision an instance from the Lifecycle menu. We're going to select the disk we've been demoing so far. And then the rest of this is just like provisioning a regular VM for an infrastructure provider. So you have to fill out the details of your request. And I'm just going to take my time and do this so it doesn't get kicked back for any technicalities in the middle of my demo. Give me 1 second here. Obviously, you put A and B and C and D and E for these values for testing. For purpose, you can select your company tags. I don't use those for this demo. For the catalog item, what we want to do is say how many we want, and we need to give it a name. For now, we'll just do one, and let's just call it demo, I don't know, Jeff 1. That should suffice for this. For the environment, this is where we set the Azure parameters here. So the virtual private cloud or network. I have a bunch. I'll just use my generic one here. I always use the default subnet. The network security groups, you select one that already exists. And then the resource groups is very important because this kind of ties it all together there. Now for properties, this is where we select the VM size. I'm just going to select a small one here. If you want to know what all the different sizes are for this, just go back under Compute, Clouds, and click on the flavors link, and that will take you to a page that will show you all the different sizes, number of cores, etc. Now, customize is very important here. You have to give the VM itself a username and a password. And the password has to be an Azure approved password, so it's got to be like 8 characters, capital letters, numbers, etc. there. So they do insist on some degree of security. If you do not do this, your request will get kicked back and you'll see something like password is too short or something. The rest of the values we'll pick up as we go, and you can schedule it for the future, but I'm just going to submit this right now. And there's our request, and it's pending approval. And now it's approved. What we're going to do is head back over into Azure, and we'll click on virtual machines, and what we want to do is wait for this 5th one to come up here. So there's the 4 that we saw in the quad icon. Let me refresh this. Okay, so as you can see, it's creating demo-Jeff1. And this takes a little bit of time here. I'm not going to wait for the whole thing here, but as soon as it's done creating it, it'll be running. And if we go back to our requests, again, you can, if you're looking for errors or you're not seeing what you want, you can come back here. In this case, the request state is active and all the parameters I chose are available to see. So if you were getting any kinds of errors, like it didn't show up here, you can go back to the request and then just try to find out what the error was on there. So I'll just reload this one more time. Well, we'll refresh this one more time. No matter. We can still look at some of the particulars here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the VM. And, well, it's close to running because it has an IP address, and it wouldn't have an IP address if it wasn't running. And if you'll recall, the size we chose was standard A1, so you can see that got configured correctly. The other thing we can do at this point is I'll just go show you where that VM is actually located. You need to navigate back to the storage accounts. It's not in the same place as the template was. It's now in the distribution blob that I use. And you go back into your account, you click on blobs. Oops, not VHDs. I think my default's this Manage IQ folder. Yeah, there it is. About 2/3 of the way down, it says Demo Jeff1. So as you can see, the files got created. And the disk size, it really doesn't matter if it's 1 gig or 1 terabyte. It takes just milliseconds to create. What I'm going to do is just go back in the CloudForms, navigate back to that instance, and I'm just going to delete it. One of the nice things about Azure is it doesn't matter what state anything's in, you can always transition. So even if it's creating, you can delete it. So it appears to be running, but I'm done. I really appreciate your time. I hope you found this helpful, and feel free to check the links at the end for additional information. Thank you.